Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my phone, she got me locked in on cup though. locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, yeah, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, they got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Here in this phenomenal race, Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Pookie to lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. It's a pleasure to be back here. And at the moment, I'm flying solo. We're having some real big technical difficulties tonight. But first of all, folks, it's great to have you all with us as well. PSGL back again on your screens. And I just want to lay this down right now. Like I said, technical issues. Unfortunately, Danfield not able to be with me right now just due to some problems they're having with Discord at this point. But great to see you all. I can tell you that qualifying has kicked off already, so we will skip inwards. But yes, looking forward to bringing you all this action. It certainly has been a hellacious season. We've witnessed all sorts. You can already see the times now starting to flick up on the board. Now, we do have a few drivers that are coming in a little bit late. Here is the action. We are, of course, going out on the multiplayer cars this time around. Danfield, as you can see from the Discord chat, was certainly from the YouTube chat saying, "Hi, guys, I cannot play the video game." He literally can't. He can't get on Discord. We're having some issues here tonight. Jarno Barry, Nico, Alvaro, Ismail Fassi, they aren't qualifying. So we're now here with 17 cars currently lined up on the grid. Alvaro Caraton already retiring from the session. He'll be starting from the back, as will the others that are not going to be setting laps here at this point. But already, we're joining Max Wiesel up at the very top. I can tell you that the car currently position 5. That Fabrizio Donoso setting an initial fastest first sector as we get the ball rolling here this time around. Great to have you all with us. If you haven't done so already, please make sure that you leave a like and also subscribe to PSGL as well. Straight off the back of a sensational season 34, we are now back here with a social race Esports Invitational as we look to take you through into the brand new F1 Esports Championship. Wiesel now setting the benchmark. Berejne going second fastest with a 107.060. Dylan Warren just notching himself in behind two, just over nearly 0.3 of a second. Otis Lawrence setting a real benchmark. Luke Smith doing the same as Donoso comes up across the line, goes fastest with a 106.988. Only 2 drivers now in the 106s to get us underway, as we now see plenty of others looking to cross the line. I can already tell you that we do have another driver looking to go faster. Istvan Pukki, who now makes his way towards the line himself as well. 7th fastest for Shanaka Clay. Istvan Pukki is currently lying in the pits right now. Remember, folks, if you've seen the latest news, the Ferrari driver now confirmed. Istvan Pukki, after a stellar season in PSGL, has been picked up by the Ferrari esports team and will now be racing for them in the upcoming F1 Esports Pro Championship. And we're very, very excited to see what he can bring to the table. Jake Benham, of course, now out on circuit as well. The only driver out on circuit on an outlap. The sole driver out on circuit yet to nail down his first hot lap He, of course, coming off the back of a sensational victory back at Netherlands during the Dutch Grand Prix race that we had during the season 34. He was our first race winner of the season, of course, where it would lead to his teammate and colleague Jarno Opmeer going ahead to become a 4-time PSGL PC champion and a 5-time PSGL champion overall, if you include, of course, the PS4, or shall I say the PlayStation Championship that he won prior as well. We've got some other names that are joining us here tonight as well, some that you might be familiar with, others that you might not be familiar with, including the likes of Philip Presnader, of course, who was featured regularly time in, time out, of course, was a prior consistent performer at the top end of F1 Esports, looked to hold all the promise, actually raced for Ferrari as well as Alpine. Otis Lawrence as well, as some of you would have known Otis already, has certainly delivered many a grand performance in his own right. 4th fastest at this stage as well. The gap's minimal in between those up at the sharp end as well. 65 thousandths off the top for Otis Lawrence as things stand, as Jake Benham now makes his way down through towards Decidia de Largo, and then he'll make his way towards the Ferragira as well. The Brazilian Grand Prix circuit that has housed certainly this race now for quite some time. Track length of just over 4.2 miles, or should I say 4.2 kilometers. That is 2.7 miles. Generally over 100% race, you'd witness 72 laps of action. We're only going to be doing 50% of those this time around. We see Benham making his way through this next right, through the middle sector. He'll then make his way up the hill and then venture through towards Junqiao corner now. Of course, as we've said before, only multiplayer cars on offer here at this point, as Jake Benham, the All-Star, looks to try and line himself up here with a nice smooth run as he comes up towards the start-finish line. Where's he going to be this time? Around 8th fastest there for Jake Benham, with now more cars out on out laps. Philip Presnader just joining them as well. Jerry Van Boosel, very exciting talent who has come to join the group as well, making his way around turn 4 in towards turn 5 at Decidia de Largo as well. Someone who's looking to rise up the order and was a surprise entry in amongst many. He's looking to try and harness himself, very much the underdog in this category. We've got some others, including Connor as well. Connor lefted, you can see just down below, SRT lefted. That's Connor Muir, everybody, sat 13th fastest. Slowest time currently on the board in the early stages, but still a long way to go. Istvan Pukki, as we said, new Ferrari recruit, who is now currently sat 15th place. A few other times coming across the board as well. I could tell you that various different drivers holding purple sector times right now. In fact, we have a joint purple in the first sector. Donoso currently sits at the very top of the timing tower. He holds a purple first sector, but not alone, sharing a 16.676 with the Danny Barojne. Currently sits in 6th fastest as well. He's also setting the first purple sector. Now see Mirko Siriano making his way around, but he very much on a cool-down run as he flicks the rear out of the car as he makes his way around turn 8 in towards the Pinorino at turn 9 as well. Again, flicking the rear out as well, really showing us how much he can get out of the car, certainly in terms of aero. Some drivers like to be a bit more vigorous in terms of use of the throttle and the brakes. He's definitely one of those characters as well. Still no rapid improvers in the first sector. We're just keeping our eyes peeled just to see who might be lighting the timing screens up right now. See, it's coming in fits and starts, ladies and gentlemen. Siriano not happy, coming straight into the pits. Obviously not content with the lap that he's already set as we look to get things back underway at this point. Siriano coming into the garage. Plenty more movements further down as well. Jerry Van Boosel also out to about 9 minutes and 30 still to go. Shinaka Clay out on track is just 6 thousandths outside of where he would need to be. As we now see them make their way through towards the next left. I can tell you that Dan Field is with us. Dan, can you hear me?
Hello, George. I've been sat here for a good few minutes at this point.
Oh, good. Oh, there we go. Well, he is back, ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't want to cramp your style.
You haven't done that. You haven't done that one bit. Lefted Connor, that of course, Connor Muir going 12th fastest. Shinaka Clay 9th. Tamascal now goes 8th fastest. Donoso, though, at the very top of the timing screen at this stage, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, Fabrizio Donoso, I've said it time and time again, he does seem to be sort of revitalized on this new game. He's just coming across the line. Unfortunately, 9 thousandths down on his previous best lap, but the fact that he is getting so close to that time, it's good signs for the last 8.5 minutes of this qualifying session. Otis Lawrence invalid at the moment. It's a bit quiet out on circuit. A few drivers just on in-laps at the moment, the majority of the drivers in the pit lane, but it's good to see that Mirko Soriano coming out onto the circuit. I think there's some more activity down at the pit lane as well, George.
Yeah, there certainly is lots of it. Mirko Soriano now out on an outlap as well, so we've got a few cars looking to commence fast runs, and obviously Otis Lawrence will be looking to try and add his name to the list as well. Coming across the line though, instead choosing to opt for the pit lane. Was a particularly slow lap on that occasion, but he will be back for more, no doubt. We have yellow flag cautions in several sectors. Shanaka Clay out on circuit, actually down 2 seconds as well at this point. Donoso, who's now making his way around Junchao corner. He's going to be looking to try and perhaps put another notch on his lapel. Could yet become the fastest man here in this session, which I'm sure would go a long way as far as his credentials would certainly show. 7 minutes and 30 to go. And he does indeed come straight in. But we've got drivers now making their way out, including Jerry Van Boosel here at Danfield. Brand new to many, no doubt, making his first appearance in top-tier competition.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Van Boosel, of course, coming off of his championship-winning PlayStation F1 season. This seems to be the hottest new prospect off the console platform. So, really looking forward to seeing how Jerry does this evening. I know that he's got a lot of friends on Twitter, I think, and in the replies when the grid got revealed, there was a lot of talk about him. So, I think there's a buzz surrounding Jerry at the minute, and I'm expecting good things from him this evening.
Yeah, I think we can all expect good things. Certainly, if you come off the back of having the adulation of many as to being a champion in your own right, certainly on PlayStation, to then come across to the PC world. Naturally, it helps massively with the confidence boost, and it is a very competitive grid in terms of what we got on offer on PlayStation. Mirko Soriano has got a lot of traffic to deal with, and trying to get that delta down again. He's over a tenth slower in the first sector for now, which is not going to help him. Of course, still currently 7th fastest. And many tout him for a future F1 esports seat. Has been very, very fast in the realms of PSGL F2 in the past, and has competed with the best of them in F1 esports challenges competition, as well as many other elements. Soriano, though, will be looking to try and lofty his hopes up from P7. Doesn't want to stay there much longer, and losing another tenth of a second coming into the final sector. Not an ideal run for Soriano, and that's going to set him back just a little bit. And with the time coming down, coming in towards the deeper echelons of qualifying, in comes Soriano, not content at all. Seems to be struggling to get his feet under the table here, Dan.
Yeah, struggling so far in this session, Mirko, but it is a good time at the minute, and he's not far, actually, at all off the back of Fabrizio Donoso, but, you know, that is going to knock his confidence ever so slightly. He's definitely going to be in a difficult position coming into this evening due to the fact of what happened at the final race in Abu Dhabi, where he could have won that championship but was taken out on the final lap. The championship was handed to Jack Quest, who was all the way down in 18th. Soriano definitely coming into this one with a chip on his shoulder, but he's got plenty of competitors this evening. George, you mentioned it earlier on, but Istvan Pukki getting announced for a Ferrari drive this season. Tomek Paragic, unfortunately, taking a step back due to other responsibilities. I'm really excited to see how he does in the F1 esports scene. He's currently coming through the final sector now. His improvement in sector 2, he's up by 600ths.
Yeah, he certainly is now. Soriano making his way out of Junchao, and currently on a 107 at 133. We saw Berejne making his way up towards the line as well, but Pukki is the one we want to see. He's actually going to make his way across that start-finish line. And is he going to find a little bit more time? No. 10th fastest is where he stays. A 107 at 128. Which is only mere thousandths off Shanaka Clay's time, but he'd much rather see himself in the 106s. Unbelievably, only 2 cars currently in that segment of the time here on the timing screen. That is Donoso and Luke Smith, untouchable at the top. And you can just see how close that gap is. 7 thousandths separating Donoso and Smith right now.
Incredibly close times. Of course, this is a very short circuit, so there's a few less places to actually lose time, but definitely that is an incredibly tight margin between the pair of them. Be interesting to see in the last 4 minutes of this session if that gap is going to close down even more, potentially spread out. I'm watching Shanaka Clay at the moment, utilising the Gulf Williams livery. Beautiful car. He's coming now through sector 2. He's up by just about 200ths in the first sector, but he's up by a tenth and he's purple in sector 2. So Shanaka Clay coming through now. Jun Sao could be on for a pole time.
Yeah, he could well be. Now making his way towards the line, we saw Connor Muir go 10th fastest, finding just a little fragment that was able to put himself into the top 10. Shanaka Clay goes fastest with a 106.980. Now starts to heat things up here towards the end of qualifying. 3 minutes and 20. And now Shanaka Clay has managed to put himself right at the top of the board. Floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. It's Shanaka Clay, everybody. A sensational lap indeed. And he's going to make sure that he can perhaps enlist yet something a little extra to secure his place. Someone as well here at this stage, Dan, that in the past hasn't quite had the ability to show what he's truly capable of. I'm talking about the seasons gone by that garnered him his F1 Esports seat in the first place. That form could be on the cusp of being rediscovered.
Absolutely, Shanaka Clay's been a bit quiet on this F1 23 game and in recent seasons of F1 Esports, but he's always been a quick driver, and I'm glad to see that he's been able to find some of that form here this evening in Brazil, ahead of Fabrizio Donoso and Luke Smith, two F1 Esports drivers in their own right. And George, look how tight these margins are. Max Wiesel is not even 3/4 of a tenth off the back of Shanaka Clay's whole time at the minute, and Max is down in 7th position. Max Wiesel actually just come out for an outlap, as is many drivers. So in the words of Chris Bucks and George, we are now into the Banzai phase.
We certainly are. Incidentally, Shanaka Clay, his best result in PCF1 Season 34 competition was back here at this very track. He finished 7th and would be looking to perhaps repeat some of the similar feat. Obviously would like to get himself onto the podium, maybe even become a race winner. But P7 in amongst that kind of competition is massive. Of course, Barry Burremand went on to win that race on that occasion. This time, though, not competing in qualifying. Will, of course, be featuring as we go into the race, but will be starting towards the rear of the field. It does mean that we have got a very exciting race in prospect, with many of the top-end esports drivers that are featured as champions or either PSGL champions starting from the very back of the grid, which really unlocks some really interesting strat ideas for many of those that are looking to try and levy themselves higher up the order. Every car now, bar Shanaka Clay, now out on track. Jerry Van Boosel is out on circuit right now, but obviously heading out of turn 5 and turn 6, he's got traffic ahead of him here, Dan. This could prove to be very costly.
And he's coming up through Ferradura now in this second sector, where you really don't want to have any traffic. There's no room for a slipstream. It's just going to be dirty air as he slides his way through Pinarino now. He's looking good on the lap so far. I believe he was ever so slightly up on his previous best through the first sector, but in towards now Vico de Pato, I believe that corner is called, and through towards the end of the second sector. Oh, there's a car right in front of him. Jerry Van Boosel. That's another green car there. I believe that was Fabrizio Donoso, sat in the middle of the road. Jerry Van Boosel's had to back off on that one. And I don't know if he's going to have the battery to go again.
Well, we'll have to find out. Jerry Van Boosel, unfortunately, stricken at this point. Many cars already crossing the line. I can tell you that Otis Lawrence, 26,000 up already. Shanaka Clay has made it back out again with 20 seconds to go. On his outlap right now, looking to try and put in one last gasp here, right at the very end. Only 2 cars currently out on outlaps, looking to cross the line to commence their final runs. Connor Muir has just crossed it now, looking to enlist his next one too, as we also see Danny Berejne making his way down the long straight. Luke Smith will be coming to join them as well. He's 41,000 up on his time. Jerry Van Boosel, of course, retiring after getting hindered up towards Jun Chao corner. Here comes Otis Lawrence, though, someone who has certainly delivered many a great result for McLaren in the past. He's in a McLaren livery, despite being in a multiplayer car. Can he go to the top here with a marked improvement here at a late stage? He can! A 106.892, the only 106.8 that we have seen so far, and currently sits as well very pretty there at the very top of the timing screen. Can anyone beat him, Dan?
Well, I'm not too sure at this point. Shanaka Clay in the first sector set the exact same lap time. Fabrizio Donoso is coming now down the main straight. Luke Smith, 7,000th off the top. He starts in P2 for the time being. Donoso to the line is 100th off the back of Otis Lawrence. It's all now on Shanaka Clay's shoulders. He is just up by 4,000th of a second. There's Danny Berejne to the line. 8,000th clear of Otis Lawrence with a 1 minute 6.883. But here's Shanaka Clay to the line. Can he improve and get to the top of the order? Unfortunately, he's going to remain in at P5. So an incredibly close end to qualifying. Danny Berejnay is on pole position by less than 100th of a second.
What an outrageous lap there from Danny Berejnay. Of course, podium sitter here at Brazil during season 34. He finished P3. He's just landed pole position by a mere 9 thousandths ahead of Otis Lawrence here in short qualifying competition. Luke Smith in third place. Fabrizio Donoso, who was at the top in the very early stages of qualifying, finishing in fourth. Shanaka Clay in fifth. Max Wiesel in sixth. Philip Prejnader in seventh. We've then got Jake Benham, the all-star, in eighth place. Thomas Gall in ninth. Dylan Warren in 10th with Istvan Pukki, Ferrari's newest recruit, in 11th spot with Mirko Suriano in 12th. Conor Muir sitting in 13th. A very impressive run in the early stages, managing to finish ahead of Louis Welsh and also Jerry Van Boosel, who unfortunately got hindered in his final run. Of course, no lap set from Ishmael Fassi and Alvaro Caraton. Of course, we have Barry, Jarno, as well as many others still to come who are joining the lobby ready for the race session. But folks, it is obviously a pleasure. We've finally brought to you some action. Dan, I'm going to try and get your camera back on because I'm sure you've put it on for me. So let's have a look because obviously it has been a pretty crazy start to the broadcast. Of course, Discord not quite working out for us. So therefore, we didn't get you in the very early stages of the broadcast. But still, we've got you in now. That's the important thing. Better late than never, my friend. But here, we've got a fascinating scenario. We'll talk all about it very shortly. First of all, a quick commercial break. Welcome back, everybody. Great to be back here at PSGL. Make sure, of course, you leave a like and also subscribe. Remember, you can check out the socials as well at PSGL, at Premier Sim GL. And we're here to bring you yet again more Esports Invitational action. We've got some of the best drivers in the world competing, along with some new faces that you might have never seen before. But still, nonetheless, we look at the lines between F1 and F2 to a certain degree. They're very much blurred. You can still very much call this a top-tier competitive race here tonight, and obviously many of the F2 guys looking to tout themselves for future F1 esports seats, and this is the place to do it, isn't it, Dan?
Absolutely, and I'm really happy to see some of the F2 guys mixing it in with the very top runners, of course, commentating on F2 all season. They've been keeping F1 pretty humble sometimes, I think, at some points. On quicker in qualifying than some of the very best. Max Wiesel, I'm especially impressed with, just a 10th off the back of Danny Berejnay. What is he, a two-time Esports Constructors champion, and he's just a 10th off him, and he's out-qualified Philip Prejnader and Jake Benham, who are two established F1 Esports names. So it's great to see that some of the F2 guys are mixing it in with the very best here in PSGL.
They certainly are, and also Otis Lawrence, who certainly has shown no signs of slowing down whatsoever. We know a lot about this kid. He is widely tipped as the brightest star in the world of league racing and also the world of F1 esports as well. Remember the name Otis Lawrence, folks. He is only a mere 16 years of age. He was 15 when competing earlier on in the season as well. I think he's turned 16 recently. I'm not quite sure where he falls in terms of his age right now, but obviously not quite old enough to enter the category for F1 esports, but is showing all the promise that we can expect from someone who is likely to be a future star in this esport. But yes, looking forward to this. Obviously, we've got other names that are coming in. Interesting to see that some of the major gunners in the world of esports are going to be starting from the back here. Of course, we've got the two Ferraris of being Nico and Barry Burman. In fact, folks, we can take you through some of the names that are lining up here tonight. Let's take you through them. So Istvan Pukki and Louis Welsh, as we know, driving essentially an Alfa Romeo, but they're not, because obviously it's multiplayer cars. Thomas Gall and Max Wiesel are together as well. Philip Prejnader, Luke Smith, Fabrizio Donoso, Simon Weigang, Barry Burman, Nicholas Longate, Danny Berejnay, Jerry Van Boosel, as well as Otis Lawrence, Shanaka Clay, Jake Benham, Jarno Opmeer, Mirko Suriano, including Dylan Warren, and Alvaro Caraton, Ishmael Fassi, all lined up as well. So we've got plenty there to look at, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see who comes out on top in this affair. The great thing about Esports Invitationals, Dan, And historically, it's things that we have seen in the past. Because there aren't necessarily points on the line, drivers do tend to get a little more aggressive when it comes to racing. They try different moves that maybe they wouldn't do, should we say, in a league scenario. It opens more doors for action, arguably makes the Esports Invitationals that bit more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no points on the line, of course. They've got nothing really to race for except pride, and they just get to let loose. You know, there's no stewards eyeing every single move that they make, so they can maybe be a little bit more aggressive. Of course, you can't throw all the driving standards out the window, but I definitely think there's going to be some leniency in how it's taken this evening, and I think all the drivers are definitely going to be a little bit more aggressive and have a bit more fun this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think without a doubt, I think we're going to be seeing definitely, I think, some more from some of the drivers, and I hope we do, because obviously it's historically it's always been the case that we have witnessed many great social races, esports invitationals that we generally have at the start of each game cycle. If you were, of course, with us at the very start when F123 was released for the first time, we, of course, have the usual esports invitationals at Barcelona, and many others, of course, a frequent place for winter testing historically as well for F1 cars. Since then they've moved to Bahrain to do their necessary winter tests in the world of Formula One. But of course, we use Barcelona time and time again as an esports invitational track to bring you all the action at the very start of a game cycle. In terms of what we've seen, though, is there anyone that has really stood out for you, Dan? Obviously, I think Berejnay has given us a great indicator of where he sits in amongst the pace, but also you've got some recurring characters. We've got Donoso in the mix. You've also got the likes of, well, we all know that Otis Lawrence is quick. We've seen him compete at the very best level now time and time again. You know, it's an unknown quantity. We've got those fast guys at the top. We've got those that didn't take part in qualifying as well that are very capable of unleashing a world-class strategy.
I mean, there's so many drivers that I'm so excited to see this evening. I'm just looking through the order. I definitely think all of the F1 esports guys that are starting at the back are going to be the ones to watch. But I definitely think that I want to be keeping an eye on Ismail Fassi, because in recent weeks, especially George, I feel like in league racing, Ismail Fassi, he's really come alive, and he's certainly come into his own. He's a lot more of a mature driver than he previously was, and I'm looking forward to seeing him this evening. Starting, of course, from the back of the grid, we'll see how he and the other esports greats like Nico, Barry, Jarno, and Alvaro, we'll see how they all get on and climb up the grid.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, all these drivers have pure potential. A few of these names are obviously trying to take for places at the top end, Tamascal being one of them. Of course, Louis Welch, historically, someone who has really bounced from division to division and very much coming back. Obviously, the current standard involving the pad game. Of course, we've seen some difficulties for some of the pad drivers in frequent years or in the previous years that have seen the handling models change on some of the F1 games. This game cycle has definitely been one of those that has definitely highlighted improvements for the pad drivers. So drivers like Louis Welch, they have a great chance of getting themselves back to where they were, should we say, back 3 game cycles ago, Dan. Of course, remember 2021 was probably one of the frequent points. 2020 as well for the pad drivers. One of the best periods of Louis Welch's competitive league racing career, and now is a great chance to do that again.
Louis Welch back on the PlayStation days was, I think, when I was first getting into league racing, George, back in early 2020, I wasn't a part of PSGL, I wasn't a part of any league at all. I was messaging Louis on Twitter saying, I use your setups from time trial. Like, I pretty much idolized him, and I didn't even know that he was on the pad. And I think over the years, he's been one of my favorites to root for. I know commentators, they're not supposed to root for drivers, but Louis Welch, I've always had a soft spot for him. He's a lovely guy, and I'm really happy that the pad is a little bit quicker on this game, and especially around Brazil. I think it is I remember, I think from F1 2019 or F1 2020, this was a pad track, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it was a long time ago now, George, but definitely Louis Welch. It's good to see that he's able to still kick it with these guys, because he's been a part of the league racing scene for years at this point. I think on PlayStation it was like season 21, 22, one of those early 20s champions, which was nearly over 10 seasons ago in PSGL. Louis Welch was kicking it, winning titles, and he's still competing at the top level here in PSGL.
It's unbelievable considering how long now league racing has spanned right from the very beginning. Obviously, PSGL being around for well over 10 years, in fact. It's built up a reputation on He, on PlayStation territory, has now since taken the jump onto PC, only back a couple of years or so ago. I still remember the first time when we put together the first tier for PC, and now you've seen it blossom time and time again, and many of the original grid going on to do great things, not just in the world of the F1 game, but I witnessed Ate Kaupinen winning in endurance racing action only yesterday, and it was absolutely stellar to watch. Of course, still representing Williams Esports, but in the world of iRacing, and still went ahead and won an endurance event in the prototypes as well. So he's doing an absolutely tremendous job, even on the other side of the world in terms of sim racing. Great to see. Obviously, we've got to talk about some of the contenders that we have seen time in, time out. Of course, Jana Wotmir winning the title. Of course, you were with me in the box when we did the race in Abu Dhabi as well, Dan, and we witnessed Jano take his 4th PC F1 title, and not only that, doing it very nearly without a single race win that season. He only managed to get a 1, and that was back at Mexico. And I tell you what, it very nearly all went wrong in Abu Dhabi, didn't it? Because, of course, he got uprooted by Alfie Butcher. And I tell you what, I couldn't bear to watch, because I thought, well, if Barry does capitalise off the back of this, I don't really want to watch the video that he's going to produce after that.
And I think if Ishmael Fassi wasn't there, that might have been a much different story, because looking back at that race, his defensive drive on Barry Burman was incredible, and I think he might become the most popular man in the world of the Jana Wotmir fan base. Of course, Jana Wotmir, now a 4-time PC champion and a 5-time overall PSGL champion. It is insane, and he is coming for Conor McDonough's record. Yeah,
he certainly is, and Conor's going to be sitting a little uneasy on that fact now. Of course, essentially retired from the competitive scene, but still obviously strutting his stuff on the PSGL side, given the fact that we're looking after the PSGL broadcast here tonight. Of course, you can catch all the tiers in PSGL across the board on both PlayStation and PC as well. He liked that as well, Dan. But yeah, it's great. Obviously, looking ahead now, we've got a great race coming up. Let us know in the live chat as well, folks, who's going to take victory here tonight at the Brazilian track of Interlagos. I personally don't know who's going to come out on top. I'm going to throw it to an expert who might. Dan, very quickly, sum up who you think is going to win tonight.
Expo's not the word that I'd use, but I'm going to go from the back of the grid, Barry Burman.
Well, there you have it, folks. We're now going to go racing as all the lights get set and lit. And it's pedal to the metal. And it is go, 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 go. Danny Berejney getting off strongly off the line here as well. Otis Lawrence challenging him into turn 1, but Berejney leads. Berejney leads. He's on top here at this point. Donoso are usurping there. Luke Smith as they battle now. Out for 3rd place. Coming out to the Retro Aposta. Into Decidia Delago. Side by side again. Lawrence now holding on to that advantage as Luke Smith still falls in behind. We're seeing cars battling out right across the top 10. It's getting nip and tuck. It's close. Nevertheless, here on lap 1 of 36.
Otis Lawrence then up to the lead of this race ahead of Luke Smith and Fabrizio Donoso. A great start for the young McLaren driver this evening as they're all bumping their way through Pinarino. Istvan Pukki starting on a set of the soft compound tyres already has made up 4 places in this race. Make that 60s up the inside now of Max Wiesel, and he's had a cracking start.
He certainly has. Jana Wotmir watching everything unfold as well. Jerry Van Bushel currently under a little bit of scrutiny right now. Barry Burman already now loftying himself ahead of Conor Muir as he heads out of Junshao section. We're right on board here with the rapidly fast Iranian. Of course, a PSGL champion in his own right, as Otis Lawrence, as you would expect, taking the fastest lap of the race. Now, we're seeing cars come into the pits already. Connor Lefted coming in as well. And, of course, Conor Muir. Louis Welsh also coming in. Mirko Siriano as well, folks. A reminder of the tyre situation there just below as we rejoin the action at the very front end. Fabrizio Donoso, 3rd place, trying to challenge Luke Smith for 2nd as they now make their way out. Danny Berejney coming under some strict pressure as well from Abdullah Abrashid Mahmoud as well in 11th place as they make their way through the next right-hander in towards this double right. We've got Pukki now up to 4th, the Ferrari recruit now going side by side with Shanaka Clay. They remain together, but Pukki with his number, all dressed in red this time, representing McLaren well.
representing McLaren well.
Not McLaren, Ferrari. Do apologise.
Look, it looks good on him with the red on red and then the soft tyres. It's working well. He's looking to make his way up onto the podium now, utilising some of the battery on the rear of Fabrizio Donoso, and he could potentially go for 2-1. Actually, he's backed off, heading in towards the first corner. He knows that Fabi wants to go for the move around the outside of Luke Smith into the first corner. Luke Smith going very deep on the brakes, almost into the back of Otis Lawrence, who still leads this race. A bad run then through the center S's for Luke Smith, but through Curva del Sol, I think he's been able to recover ever so slightly as Van Pookie looking to find his way into this battle as well, in towards then turn number 4. It's going to remain the way they were. Luke Smith managing to hold the position ahead of Fabrizio Donoso, but I think there's some early signs of weakness there.
Yeah, just to let you guys know at home as well, Abdullah Abrashid Mahmoud is in fact Nicolas Longuet, who's on a bit of a wind-up right now. So 10th place. We wouldn't expect anything less from Nicolas Longuet, I think, at this point. So there we have it. So for those of you who might be confused at home, as much as we are, I think he was actually primarily responsible for me saying Istvan Pukki is dressed up as a McLaren driver. So I'm going to place the blame on Nicolas Longuet at this point. Pukki now 3rd as he overtakes Fabrizio Donoso. He's on the soft tyres, so you wouldn't expect anything less. Otis Lawrence still on top. Hard tyres for him with Luke Smith now in behind, and he's going to be fodder at this point for Istvan Pukki, who's looking to unleash these red banded tyres on the rest of the grid. Barry Burman now set to join his teammate on the cusp of being in the top 10 as he now uproots Thomas Gal heading in towards turn 1. Great move from Barry Burman, who now looks to try and lofty his hopes higher and higher. But look at Nicolas Longuet, who's now also on the precipice of moving up into P9. Moves alongside now Philip Prejnader, looks to hunt him down the inside, heading through to Cidio Delago, gives his teammate a tow as well. Enter Barry Burman, who is now up into 10th place. Fabulous teamwork by the Ferrari pairing.
We know the synergy that these two have, and they're still utilising it here in the Esports Invitational. A great overtake from Nicolas Longuet, and great team play from the pair of them to make that move stick on Philip Presnader, who's going to be feeling a little bit hard done by that the two Ferraris have been able to gang up on him of sorts, but those two on the medium tyres, only 3 laps old. At this point, they're definitely going to be insanely quick, and certainly a lot quicker than those hard compound of tyres. So Nicolas Longuet and Barry Burman starting from the back of the order. Got to watch out for them.
Yeah, we certainly do. Just a thought as well, folks. I know it's being widely discussed, I think, around the chats as well. Obviously, Danny Berejnay was, in fact, leading at the very front. Remember, of course, he grabbed pole, somehow disappeared at the front of the circuit and found himself down in P13. So answers on a postcard as to how that works. I personally don't know how. Usually when you have the power of invisibility, you're hoping it'll make you go further and further up the track. Unfortunately for Danny Berejnay, he teleported further back through the grid. As now we see Nicolas Longuet jumping Dylan Warren, now up to 8th place now, and Nico, who's going to look to try and close up on Max Wiesel, now will also be watching and waiting to see whether Barry Burman can do exactly the same and join him further up the order in the top 10. So he'll look to try and lofty himself above P9's Dylan Warren, but that's easier said than done.
When I look back at the stream to see what happened to Danny Berejnay, as soon as you change the camera to a driver behind, Danny just disappeared. So I think you might have been at play here, George. I'm not blaming you for anything.
That's called passing the buck. That is downfield, and I can tell you that is absolutely not what happened. But nevertheless, listen, Danny Berejnay, I have no idea what happened. He literally disappeared. I've got no technical answer for you. I'm not an expert at stuff like this, as we now see Barry Burman go around the outside of Dylan Warren, heading down the long straight in towards turn 1. Barry Burman with a very cool and calculated move that has just delivered him P9 here in this classification.
Yeah, the two Ferraris, I mean, they're making their way up the order. I don't think Dylan Warren really fought that one too hard. There's some moves being mustered up ahead in the order. I believe that's Jake Benham. That's Nicolas Longuet fighting it out with Max Wiesel. Again, Nico in that sort of wine red car. He's all the way up into 7th. He's up 11 places in this Grand Prix, and he's all over the back now of Jake Benham. Of course, Mercedes vs Ferrari. It's been the modern day Formula One story, especially in the late teens, and now it's going to be taking place here this evening. Will Jake be able to hold off the charging medium runner of Nicolas Longuet, or will he succumb to the power of that multiplayer car like the rest of the grid has?
Well, I'll tell you what, being on those medium tyres at this point, and with the pace that they have behind them, this strategy could very much work for Longuet and Burman. They've gone against the grain in many ways, many of them opting for the hard tyres, Some of them on the soft. Well, I say some of them. One of them on the softs. Istvan Pukki being that nominal man who's going to go for second place here at this point, with Luke Smith hunting him down. Of course, 6 laps already accrued on those soft tyres, but manages to get the move done nonetheless. Very well executed from Istvan Pukki. And I can tell you this, Barry Burmand has just got himself past Max Wiesel as he looks to power his way higher and higher and chasing after his teammate Nicolas Longuet.
These two have just been climbing up the order steadily every single lap, making 1 or 2 moves, and surely, but soon enough, I mean, they're going to be fighting potentially for the podiums. But of course, George, that is the risk that you run. Those medium tyres not going to last forever. Otis Lawrence, Luke Smith, Fabrizio Donoso, all of the hard runners are going to have that longevity against Nicolas Longuet, Barry Burmand, and Istvan Pukki. So all 3 of the Ferrari representatives going for this very early aggressive strategy, but will it work out for them in the end? We'll have to wait and see. It's a very long race still, George. We've got 30 laps to go, running on lap number 7 of 36, coming up towards lap 8 now. So only time will tell what will happen. There's Nicolas Longuet going up the inside of Yun Sao, I believe, on Jake Benham. Move has been made, heading down the straight.
And once again, giving a tow to Barry Burman down the stretch. They might go 3 wide here, heading in towards turn 1. They certainly will. 2 Ferrari drivers. Barry cuts himself off and goes in behind. Benham determined to fight off Longuet as they head through the center S's. Still though, Benham with his jaws in front. He's got the car in front. And look at Barry Burman, the rapidly fast Iranian, trying to get past his teammates side by side. The tactics have gone out the window at this point. They've got to make a decision. Incredible. Still Longuet holds his place, but Benham did mightily well to defend the place of P6 away from Longuet.
That was a great defensive drive there from Jake Benham, getting himself back ahead of Nicolas Longuet. I had a terrible camera angle when I was watching, so I thought that Nico had made that move stick, but Jake, I guess with the DRS, maybe some of the battery as well, was able to fight that one back, hold him around the outside, and then get the run into the second part of the center S's. We'll see if Nicolas Longuet is going to go for round number 2, heading in towards lap number 9. They're already in the 3rd sector. This race going by incredibly quick at the minute. That is the nature of Brazil. It's a very fast circuit, as I'm trying to see who's going to go for these battles. I think we've got to stick with where we are now, George.
Yeah, I think so. Currently lap 9 of 36. Otis Lawrence doing a very, very stern and well-preserved job in P1. He's got Pukki still on his tail, but Istvan Pukki seems to be struggling on those softs to generate any moves. And Danny Berejne, though, not struggling, now up to 12th place and having to recover. Turns out he had no force feedback at the start. I've got a message that's come through. Danny Berejne, no force feedback at the very start of the race and therefore lost places. Alvaro Caraton, though, is also looking to lofty his hopes. Gets himself past Tamascal and 13th here in this classification. He's going to be shortly joined as well by Jarno Opmeer, the Flying Dutchman, the current PSGL champion re-elect. Now moves his way into 14th as well. A great showing there from our current season 34 victor, with only 1 win to boot at Mexico, and the rest of them pretty much P2s. He very rarely finished outside the points and really did deliver a clinic all season long. It was certainly a display of consistency.
Gotta say, Jarno Opmeer, I mean, he is Mr. PSGL at this point. 4 times on the PC, 5 times overall, if you're counting that PlayStation title all the way back in season 25. But he's not really made too many waves in this Grand Prix. Sat back, of course, on the hard compound of tyres like Alvaro and Ismail Fassi as well. But I think later on in the Grand Prix, when they strap on a set of the mediums potentially to go to the end of this Grand Prix, then they're going to have a much easier job at going for these moves, especially when they're catching up to Nicolas Longuet and Barry Burman. Speaking of Nicolas Longuet, there's the move on Jake Benham, which was 2 laps in the works at this point. I think Nico would have been a lot happier if he got that move done on lap number 8, and now it's just a matter of when Barry Burman can try and follow his teammate through. Jake Benham proving to be cork in the bottle for the Ferraris.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I think Longuet will be a little frustrated because obviously they wanted to get through the field as quickly as possible on these medium tyres. Obviously the effectiveness is going to wear off soon. Obviously, Pukki proving that the softs can last quite a long time, but obviously at this point, it seems that with the fact that he can't close up on Otis or make that key overtake that perhaps he's looking for, that those softs are probably seeing the end of their life. Now, the mediums won't be too far behind either, so if you are Nicolas Longuet right now, you want to try and make the most of them right now before your essential pit window opens, because, of course, every driver wants to win. Nicolas Longuet is one of them. He claimed his very first PSGL race win this season, of course, when trying to obviously land a championship, championship fight of his own. managing to claim his very first PSGL race win in competitive action. Here, of course, in this league season, as we now see Pookie being closed down upon by Luke Smith once again as we take a look from the rear view, heading through Decidia de Largo. But yes, going back to that sensational run from Nicolas Longuet, who would go on, of course, to lay claim to 2 race wins that season. Took his first back at Suzuka in Japan in great style. And then there was a P2 at Belgium, very quickly followed by victory at Jeddah for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, making it not only his first win of the season, but he also did it twice.
Absolutely, as this race continues on, George, I mean, I think it's Van Pookie. I'm watching him at the moment. He is coming under some fire from Luke Smith. Luke is beginning to close down these straights, and I think in the traction zone, it's Van Pookie is really struggling to get the power down as early as possible. You see, out of Junsao now, Luke Smith was able to gain a slight advantage. He's lost a little bit heading down the straight, but Fabrizio Donoso, I think Luke's maybe going to have to look in his mirrors because he's got an angry Aston Martin driver in behind him. Heading into the braking zone they go. Doesn't seem like there's going to be any moves, but I think we're just a few laps away. We're about a third of the way through this Grand Prix. We're just a few laps away from seeing some drivers begin to think about a pit stop. When they think about the pit stops, they think about the moves.
They certainly do. Now, I've seen Pookie generate some really fast straight line speed. Now, he's not choosing to make the move. I think this is purely strategic here from Istvan Pookie. An opportunity to perhaps try and conserve some of the tyres. And certainly here on lap 12, sees himself behind Otis Lawrence, has had every chance to make the move. He was very quick down the home straight, heading out of Junqiao and heading in towards turn 1. Looked likely that he could have plumbed for a move, but held behind. He reneged on the move as now Shanaka Clay goes side by side together here with Nicolas Longuet. And Longuet, who has been in spirited form, another fantastic move, heading through the middle sector. He's now going to make the climb up towards Junqiao and now in 5th place. A great chance to levy himself into the podium places.
Great showing tonight from Nicolas Longuet. Of course, throughout the entirety of season 34, Barry Burman was the main man, but so far this evening it's been the Nicolas Longuet show down at Ferrari. Barry has had his moments and he's been able to follow through with what Nicolas Longuet's done, but Nico has been spearheading this charge up the order for these 2 medium runners throughout the entire races. Now, Jarno Opmeer doing battle further back down the order, all the way down in 13th. He's doing battle with Alvaro Carreton. These 2 been very quiet in this race thus far, not wanting to burn any of their resources, but it seems finally Jarno has decided he wants to go for the move. He's got himself up to 13th now.
Yeah, it's on a vastly different strategy to those that are further up. Jerry Van Boosel managing to get past Thomas Gal at this point in lap 13 of 36 as well. But remember, the likes of Jarno Opmeer, Alvaro Carreton, including this man, Jerry Van Boosel and Thomas Gal, on vastly different strategies than Longuet and Buraman. They're going to come into the fray late into the race. So keep your eyes peeled, folks. As the mediums wear off, that is where Opmeer is going to look to push, and already managing to knife his way through a few places. So the current champion, 13th, right behind the man who went pole here in this session, Danny Berejnay, and is now sitting on the cusp of perhaps nailing himself a top 10 here at this point. As Opmeer now rounds the final corners here on his lap 13 of 36, he's going to make his way down through towards the start-finish line. Lap 14 now underway as we start to see battling further up. Donoso right on the tail of Luke Smith as well. Longuet on the tail of all of them, waiting to make a move. Donoso hovering right on the rear of Luke Smith as the 2 of them come together, heading down the long straight. They know each other well enough. Both of them have raced for Alpine in the past as well. Of course, Donoso since jumping ship and now drives for Aston Martin.
Of course, Fabrizio Donoso and Nicolas Longuet, formerly teammates at Alpine a few seasons ago. I believe it was 2021 that they were working together down there. And of course, Luke Smith now currently working at Alpine. It's a full French party at the front of the order. But yeah, Luke Smith slid his way through turn number 1 and turn number 2. And Fabrizio Donoso was all over the back of him. But because of the DRS that he was able to pick up from Istvan Pookie, it meant that Luke Smith was just able to hold the position, as now Fabrizio Donoso slides his way through Junsao. It's a bad run for the Chilean driver. And now Nicolas Longuet, he's angered. He's going to go for the move, utilising some of the battery down the straight, closing with the DRS to the rear of his former teammates at Alpine. Will he go up the inside later, breaking into the first corner? Indeed, he will. The Frenchman up the inside. Can he make the move stick in towards turn number 2? Have to wait and see. Is now through Curve del Sol. Little bit of wheel bang between the pair of them, but Nicholas Longay has been able to pull that move off. They now head down in towards turn number 4, and I think Nico, he's got that move secured.
They both once called themselves colleagues, near enough friends, but this time they're enemies. They're combatants, gladiators here on lap 15 of 36. Once again hovering all over the rear. This time Donoso trying to bite back against Nicholas Longay. Remember, he's on the hard tyres. He can utilise them when they come into the fray later on as the mediums start to die. So do not count out Donoso, with Shinaka Clay also hot on his heels right now. Jake Benham also in the mix of all this. The actual delta between each driver from P1 all the way down to P17 is absolutely minimal. The only reason we've got those cars further back outside of that 1 second mark is because they've already boxed. Of course, Connor Muir on medium tyres, as well as Mirko Suriano and Louis Welch. They make their way down the straight once again to commence their lap 16 of 36. Otis Lawrence still very much in charge at this point. Jake Benham is currently being haunted by Barry Burman, who sends it down the inside, heading through towards the centre S's. Fantastic late move. He danced his way through turn 1, came out of turn 2 a hero, but Benham is not going to come straight back.
Oh, in towards now turn number 4. I think Barry Burman's just about been able to hold this move on Jake Benham. A dive bomb there for Barry. We were saying before the stream, George, or not before the stream, but before the race, that the drivers are going to be more open to going for these later moves. And I think if this was a points-paying race, Barry would not have sent that move. Lap number 16 of 36. Those medium tyres certainly as well getting on in age a little bit. So maybe he's going to start to think about potentially coming into the pits, and that's why he's trying to make these moves count and get ahead of his rivals heading into the pits, because he knows he's going to have that undercut. And so, he's just the track position is going to help him in that charge to really secure that 1-2, which is looking like for maybe 1-2-3 for Ferrari, because Istvan Pukki, Nicholas Longay and Barry Burman are all going to be able to pit very soon in this Grand Prix, have a massive undercut on their rivals, and then see if they can hold them off towards the end of this race still. As there's Luke Smith. Ow!
Massive move heading in towards turn 1. Luke Smith sent it in very deep indeed, and Pukki now has been, shall we say, unrested. He is now being attacked by Nicholas Longay, who immediately swoops into P3. The soft tyres now have taken a licking, and they're no longer ticking, because here comes Donoso on the hard tyres as well, who's going to look to try and jackknife Istvan Pukki's attempts. The tyres we saw from the graphic now hovering around the 60%. He is going to be literally slipping and sliding through that middle sector, and the delta is going to be that much harder to maintain.
Absolutely. Istvan Pukki has made 16 laps on this set of the tyres. Surely all the hard runners who are going to be pitting maybe in the next few laps, as now Danny Berejnay makes the move on Philip Presneder. All the hard runners potentially going to be considering going onto a set of the softs towards the end of this race, but those tyres are screaming at the minute. He's at the mercy now of Fabrizio Donoso, who's going to be closing with the DRS. He doesn't even need it. Heading down the straight, Istvan Pukki pulling off to the left-hand side. He will finally box off that set of the softs. It's been a stellar performance from the recently recruited Ferrari Esports driver. Further back behind, still more moves being made. I think Jarno Otmir has just gone up the outside of Philip Presneder. Great stuff from the Dutchman. He'll try and stick to the back of Danny Berejnay, but Jarno up to 11th. He's had a silent but good race today.
He certainly has. Now, while Pukki has obviously missed out, should we say, losing a few positions here and there, he's in the pits now, boxing onto a set of medium tyres. That will no doubt take him to the end of this race. He currently holds the fastest lap as well, a 109.936, though that will be up for beating later on. And you can certainly imagine those that are certainly on the hard tyres that can go in deeper into this race. Obviously, you'd imagine, as we've just seen the soft runners come in and pit off, or that being Istvan Pukki on the softs, pitting off here at lap 18, that you can definitely get more out of the hard tyres. So sit tight. Would not be surprised to see some of the drivers perhaps go long on this strategy. This is when they'll start pushing. Of course, Otis will now be asked to push the car, increase the delta between him and P2's Luke Smith. We've got Nicholas Longay as well, who is very up close and personal, and looking to challenge Luke Smith once again. Of course, both drivers sharing time at Alpine. A look down the inside, but Longay not making the move. And as you can see from the strategy window, softs are the applied compound that he's looking to obviously operate on in the second half of his stint, as we now see them make their way out to Decidia de Largo, in towards Reta Aposta. They now have, once again, Longue looking down the inside of Luke Smith, still will not plumb to make the move, but he's looking threatening and dancing all over the back of Luke Smith's car.
The mediums or softs were going to work. I mean, why utilise the hard tyres at all in this race? Istvan Pukki is on a set of the mediums, as is Alvaro and Ismail Fassi, who have pitted on the same lap as him, and both of them were on the set of the hards. So I think going for the aggressive early strategy seems to be stronger around this circuit. That means that Nicolas Longue and Barry Burman, they have got themselves into a worldie of a position coming towards the latter part of this Grand Prix. We're now we're past the halfway mark. Try saying that 5 times faster. Past the halfway mark here in PSGL's Esports Invitational, but the action is still white hot at this point, as Otis Lawrence and Luke Smith, both of them pulling into the pit lane. That will leave the medium runner of Nicolas Longue at the front of the order.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we've just seen the hard tyres box fairly early in their lifespan. Very interesting moves here. Of course, Longue is going to go in a little later. We saw the pit window open up for him late on. So he now takes the lead here at this point. We've got Pukki, who's now set the fastest lap. Ismail Fassi, who I saw have the purple first sector on this current lap, he's just taken the 108 fastest run, as now we see Otis Lawrence make his way out. And look at this, Pukki has already gone past him. Istvan Pukki is now effectively your net leader in a sense, because of course he has already pitted onto his medium tyres. 2 laps accrued on them as well. Istvan Pukki, the strategical mastermind. Remember, he did this at Spa-Francorchamps under rain and wet conditions here at PSGL in the past. And now he looks set to do it again, looking to unravel every other driver on a fast and aggressive strategy.
Istvan Pukki ahead of Otis Lawrence, but look behind him as well, and you'll see Ismail Fassi and Alvaro Carreton, these two starting at the back of the order. And throughout the first stint of the Grand Prix, they were running in around about 12th, 13th position, as now Nicolas Longue is overtaken by his former Alpine teammate in towards turn number 1. The undercut has worked dreams for Ismail Fassi and Alvaro Carreton. Granted, those three, Istvan, Ismail, and Alvaro, they're going to have incredibly worn tyres by the end of this race, but I think it's worth it at this point to have such a time advantage on all the other drivers that are still yet to pit.
Well, at this point, it's a case of risk it for a biscuit, isn't it, at this stage, Dan? And at this point, Istvan Pukki, whilst he's 10.1 seconds off the back of Jerry Van Boosel, he has got the clean air. He has got the clean air where he can start muscling in the delta, as now Danny Berejnay moves his way past Dylan Warren in great style, heading through the Decidia de Largo section, heading out of turns 5 and turn 6. And he's going to look to try and close the gap of 3 seconds between himself and Luke Smith as well. It's been unfortunate for Danny. Of course, came off the back of achieving pole, and after that having force feedback issues on his wheel, that has essentially led him into P16 at this point.
Yeah, real shame for Danny Berejnay after setting his pole time being 8 thousandths ahead of Otis Lawrence by the end of qualifying. Now we've got some more pit stoppers still, both the Ferrari staying out. Nicolas Longue, he's not done on this set of the mediums. He goes for the move once again on Fabrizio Donoso. Shanika Clay sitting pretty in P3 at the minute. Barry Burman also yet to pit, but Jarno, Jake and Max, they will come into the pit lane. Luke Smith with the fastest lap, and Fabrizio Donoso is back into the lead. 3 things happening all at once here.
Yeah, they certainly are. Donoso now in the lead, on track at least for now, but of course when the strategy unfolds, it could be a vastly different scenario. Of course, we just saw Istvan Pukki crossing the start-finish line, but being challenged now by Otis Lawrence, who now retakes the lead that he once had earlier on in the race and has 2-lap fresher medium tyres. Now, that could prove to be clinical here at this point. Could that be the move that seals the deal for the young pretender, the man who could yet be a crown prince to be a future champion, a future F1 esports star? Otis Lawrence again delivering a clinic here tonight at Brazil.
He's one of the brightest stars in the constellation of F1 esports future, and Otis Lawrence is really performing this evening. Istvan Pukki with 2-lap older medium tyres just was not able to defend at all. Now the final pit stops are coming in for Fabrizio Donoso, Nicholas Longe, and Shanika Clay. Barry Burman fancies his chances at a 23rd lap on this set of the mediums. Philip Presnader and Jerry Van Boosel going to be on the podium for the time being. It is a set of the soft compound tyres then for Fabrizio Donoso. Tamas Gal also onto that set of the Red Bull tyres, same as Nicholas Longe. These guys will be relegated far down the order, but they are going to be white hot on this tyre.
They certainly will. They're going to have to use it all now as well. They've got 13 laps still to accrue at this point. Just look at Istvan Pukki. He is looking like an F1 Esports talent right now, hovering all over the rear this time around of Otis Lawrence, who also looks like one in the making. Has proven himself time and time again, of course, now part of the Veloce program. Of course, driving essentially as an academy driver in the McLaren Shadow team. And we've got our first retirement. Unfortunately, we lose Connor Muir, and the yellow flag's now erupting here at this point. Now, this would be the worst thing possible for those that boxed onto the mediums. Should there be a safety car, that, of course, would be music to the ears of those that have just boxed onto the softs.
What's happened to Nicholas Longe there? He's behind Tamas Gal at this point. I think, did he maybe get held in the pit lane? I know that with these F1 World cars, George, they don't know who they're sharing a pit box with. Is there a chance that potentially he shared it with Fabrizio Donoso, then boxed behind and lost all that time? I think that's just got to be one of the reasons for why he is now down into 17th position. He's well behind anyone else at this point.
Yeah, and he's been hindered massively, as you so rightly said, stuck in behind Tamas Gal, but trying to move his way forward. And we've still got yellow flags erupting left, right, and centre here. There is Longe, who is now past Tamas Gal, who now has DRS on him. But Longe also having the DRS on his teammate at Ferrari, Barry Burmand. Mirko Siriano now rejoins the action and is ahead of Louis Welch here at this point. So only one retirement here so far in lap 24 of 36. Still Otis Lawrence out in front with Pukki just in behind. The gap now between those in P5 in the top 5 and P6, of course, going all the way down to Dylan Warren. That is 2.2 seconds. With Danny Berejnay now 3.5 tenths out. That could soon be 4 tenths. Donoso now starting to put the burners on this time around, and already within 8 tenths of a second and hunting down Danny Berejnay. So watch out for Donoso. He's going to be rapid.
Yeah, we'll see how much he's able to close down this straight. Danny Berejnay might fancy a move on Dylan Warren heading in towards turn number 1. No DRS for the young Englishman, and Fabrizio Donoso is going to be all over the back of this through Curva del Sol. They go. I think he's going to have such an incredible run to potentially nip them both in towards turn at number 4. Here comes Fabrizio Donoso closing to the rear of Danny Berejnay, who's closing to the back of Dylan Warren, but no one is brave enough to go up the inside through there. But Fabi once again with an excellent exit, heading up the hill towards Ferradura. Will he try and make it maybe in towards Pinarino corner? That could be a potential overtaking opportunity for Fabrizio Donoso. Has a half look down the inside of turn number 7, but thinks better of it. But he knows that he's quicker than Danny Berejnay on these 2-lap hold soft tyres.
It was well covered there, but a mistake further up from Dylan Warren, and that could be very costly for him. Ran very deep, heading through that middle sector, and now as they march their way up towards Junqiao, and certainly now it looks like Warren might be on the cusp of losing a place. Obviously Fabrizio Donoso doesn't want to be held up here on the soft tyres. Looks to the outside of Danny Berejnay, the Hungarian now. He's at the mercy of the Chilean, the man who was battling to be champion back in F1 Esports in 2017. Very nearly a first ever champion. He is now doing battle with Warren and Berejnay and has taken the pair of them and P6 overall. Watch out everybody. The fast Chilean Fabrizio Donoso Delgado, rapid here on the set of soft tyres.
Approaching his 6th season in F1 Esports, and he's racing it like he's a rookie. This man is incredible. He needs to be studied because he's just not lost any pace with his age, and I think he's even gotten quicker on this F1 23 game. Now 2 seconds off the back of Ismail Fassi, but he gets a time penalty. He runs wide through turn number 5. That is so detrimental to his race. A 3-second time penalty for multiple track excursions there. Unfortunate for Fabrizio Donoso, but we'll see if he's able to still win it on circuit. Further up the order, Luke Smith, I believe, got through on Esteban Pukki. He might have made a mistake through Vico de Pata because or a Karaton is all over the back of him. We're coming up now, George, to 10 laps to go.
Yeah, we certainly are. Otis Lawrence, who did have a second gap to those in P2. It was a late move from Luke Smith heading in towards the latter sector that granted him that move into P2. Very masterfully done as well. And Smith now second here in this point. And now Longe, who's still working hard, has just gone past his teammate. He's uprooted Barry Burremand. He's obviously got a lap more on his soft tyres, but has managed to overtake his Ferrari teammates here at this point. 13th here on the board and now chasing down Shanaka Clay.
Oh, but Barry Burrowman's gone back through, heading in towards turn number 4. So it seems like two Ferrari Esports drivers going to be slipstreaming off each other potentially to try and catch up to this big train up ahead. This stems all the way from 6th down into 12th. So 7 cars following in this train. I think they are all, if they get caught by Barry and Nico, they're going to be at the mercy of them. We'll have to wait and see in the next few laps. Those soft tyres not going to last forever. We know that Isran Pookie was able to take his set of the softs so incredibly long in this race. It's 16 laps, then he decided to hit. So I think Barry, Nico, all of the soft runners going to be absolutely fine towards the end of the race. Looking up the order, though, it seems like Fabrizio Donoso has done a good job of reeling in the top 5.
Yeah, he certainly has. Jake Benham as well, reeling them in, gets past and bursts past Dylan Warren. Of course, we saw Danny Berejnay do exactly that earlier on, as we saw Donoso do that double overtake. Again, another move between the two Ferrari drivers. Longe and Burraman swapping and slipstreaming off one another. Again, the DRS will be open here for Barry Burraman, who will no doubt use it again this time. There we have it, opening up the door. Burraman around the outside, and this is very useful. These two working together to get themselves back on the tail, this time of Shanaka Clay in 12th place.
I think it can work for them as well. I mean, they've gained about 0.6 of a second on this very last lap, so they're doing a good job of catching up to the guys in front of them. And I think if we see more fighting like we saw from Jake Benham and Dylan Warren, then their job is going to be made even easier. Barry Burman is inching his way in towards that 1 second window that he needs to take DRS on Shanaka Clay well before the DRS detection zone. He's already got that underneath 1 second, so Shanaka Clay is going to be feeling the pressure from Barry Burramanders now. We'll try and see who's going to make a move. I think Jake Benham seems to be flying at this point with 2 laps fresher tyres than Danny Berejnay. He makes the move then on the Hungarian driver, and the young Esports, the all-star driver, up into 7th. Never mind, because there's Danny Berejnay back up the inside. A little bit of contact. Jake Benham gone straight on at turn number 1, and I think Danny Berejnay, the 2 Mercedes Esports drivers collide. That's not a great look for them. Jake Benham now down into 14.
Yeah, unfortunately suffering off the back of that. Jana Watmir, though. Heroics here from another sister Mercedes car. You can see the familiar pink and grey metallic livery. Now starting to make moves here at this point. 9th place now for Jana Watmir as he bursts past Dylan Warren as well. So that's 3 Mercedes that we have seen past Dylan Warren. Watmir now looking to close here on Max Wiesel at this point. So regardless, the strategy working out for the Flying Dutchman. Remember, starting right at the tail end of the field because he didn't compete in qualifying. Now sees himself within the top 10. And also on some of the freshest tyres you'll see in the top 10 as well. Despite Donoso being on 6-lap-old softs, Jarno's tyres can go certainly a lot longer than what those softs can. So now making their way around the corner once again towards the start-finish line, where they'll then commence yet another run. Shanaka Clay now also looking to make moves and burst past Dylan Warren as well. Piece by piece, they start to dissect Dylan Warren's car, and now he's outside the top 10. Donoso on the softs, also trying to reel in those above him. He's got Ishmael Fassi just ahead. Luke Smith also looking for the lead as well, heading in towards Decidia Delago. It's Luke Smith. He breezes past Otis Lawrence, and Barry Burremand also getting past Dylan Warren as well.
Great move there for Luke Smith to take the lead with now 6.5 laps to go in this Grand Prix. It's been the Otis Lawrence show throughout the entirety. He's led what feels like all 30 laps in this Grand Prix. Really unfortunate that he's lost that pace, but now we can see that Otis Lawrence, I've brought up the telemetry, he's got 90% in that battery, so he didn't even defend that position whatsoever, and I think Luke Smith knows that because he's still got 81 in the back of his car. So these guys can be taking it potentially towards the final lap of this race. Isvan Pookie also doing a good job with his ERS, same with Alvarez, same with Ishmael. Not so much for Fabrizio Donoso, but he does still have those soft compound tyres. But Danny Berejnay is all over the back of the Chilean driver heading in towards turn number 1. They're all going to concertina up at the front. It's Otis Lawrence up the inside once again to retake the lead from Luke Smith.
There it certainly is. Otis Lawrence has been right on board with his rear wing view coming out of the center S's. He now holds all the cards at the very front, but will not have DRS down this next straight. Out of the Reta Aposta, in towards Decidia Delago, going very tight to the inside. He's Vampuki, as he has a little look down the inside of Luke Smith, ready to pounce should he need to. And of course, East Vampuki being on 13-lap all mediums needs to think about doing that because time is running out here for the Ferrari recruit, joining the likes of Nicholas Longe and Barry Burman. And what a squad that really is, Dan, because of course you've got two experienced pros like Barry Burman and Nicholas Longe. East Vampuki was a very shrewd pick by the Ferrari Esports team.
I think Ferrari, you've got to put their name in the hat for potentially constructors, titles, contenders. I mean, the entire field is so competitive. I can think of 8 teams that could all fight for the very top honor, but definitely Ferrari have got to be one of the sharpest swords in the arsenal. We'll have to wait and see, of course, when F1 Esports does indeed start, how it actually all works out. But I definitely think that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. As now it's Vampuki, speaking of, is all over the back of Luke Smith, heading in towards turn 1. Will go the long way round around the outside with 2-lap older tyres. He does not care at all. Contact between the pair of them, and now Luke Smith going to cut cover Del Sol, but it's going to completely ruin his run. Here comes this Vampuki off the exit of the corner, allowing for Otis Lawrence to stretch his advantage up the road. It's Vampuki on the inside of Luke Smith. A little touch and go as to whether that was a clean move, but Luke Smith definitely going to have a chip on his shoulder, and he's now challenging towards Ferragura.
He certainly is. That was a fantastic display there from Mr. Vampuki. Again, the expertise on show as he looked to try and defend against Luke Smith. Did so brilliantly. Carroton also getting himself into the fight and battling against that. A fellow Williams teammate, Ishmael Fassi. Shanaka Clay has got his hands full. He has got Barry Burman right behind him, but Jana Watmir just ahead of him. Barry sends it in deep, heading through the middle sector. The rapidly faster rating, they make contact. Barry's round. Barry is round. Shanaka Clay is round as well. They spin, heading up through towards Junchao corner, and that's going to hurt Barry and Shanaka. They're now dropping through the field exponentially, but still at the sharp end. Otis Lawrence leading the way, with Pookie now trying to hunt him down.
That's my prediction out the window. I said Barry Burman was going to take victory today. Unfortunately, I was wrong in that regard. Jake Benham now through on Max Wiesel, but Otis Lawrence is slowly being reeled in by his Vampuki. Those tyres really getting on in age. It's been 15 laps on this set in the mediums. Further back behind Fabrizio Donoso. It's going for the move on Ishmael Fassi around the outside of turn 4. Will the Chilean be able to make that move stick? I think those soft might be past their best. He can still keep up with the medium runners, but I think Fabrizio Donoso might have to look into his mirrors.
Yeah, I think also Otis Lawrence taking the lead at the opportune moment as well, because obviously East Vampuki is going to be struggling a little bit on those 15-lap old medium tyres. We're coming into the final 3 laps of magic here, folks. What a sensational battle this has been. Otis Lawrence, again, a display of maturity from a young man that is obviously looking to get himself into top flight racing. Has done so arguably already, but also putting on a stellar show to perhaps garner himself his own F1 Esports seat in the near future. And I tell you what, it's not far away. I can tell you that now. Luke Smith now hunting the tail of East Vampuki. He also sharing the same tyre life as Otis Lawrence, so he could yet become a factor at the very end of this race. We're seeing cars now spread out across the start-finish line as they now look to fan out, heading through towards turns 1 and 2. There's the tyre life difference, and look at that, near enough a whole 10% difference between Pookie and Lawrence and Smith.
I think that it's really going to come back to bite his Vampuki at the end of this race. Of course, the undercut has worked out incredibly for him, but it definitely is going to put him at a disadvantage in these last 3 laps. Now 2.5 at this point. You still can't count out anyone really fighting inside this top 10. I mean, Jana Watmir only got 12-lap old tyres, but he's all the way down in 8. He's got to put on a worldy of a performance to get himself potentially into this fight. I think he still has to focus on this top 3 of 3 rising stars in the F1 Esports scene. Otis Lawrence, of course, still too young to compete. It's Vampuki now entering his rookie F1 Esports season with Ferrari, and Luke Smith already has tenure thus far. These are 3 incredibly young drivers who have got potential to be future stars in the esports scene, as now Luke Smith is closing to the rear. This Vampuki is really going to be feeling these tyres at this point, but he is also in the wheel track of Otis Lawrence heading in towards turn 1. They're going to close up together, the 3 young stars fighting it in towards the first corner. They'll remain the way they were.
Yeah, East Vampuki went a little bit defensive there, and I think that's unrattled him. It's taken him off the line. line. And now Smith is going to look to perhaps challenge because he doesn't want to waste any time. There's only a small matter of 2 laps left on the penultimate lap now. Sending it in deep here, Luke Smith, as he looks to challenge for P2. It's now a battle between Pookie and Smith. Smith has his number, heading through towards the next right to the Ferragira. Fantastic display from Luke Smith, and blast past Istvan Pookie as they make their way around on lap 35.
Brilliant stuff. These guys all fighting it out with their worn out tyres, and they're still racing like it's nothing. I mean, incredible scenes here in PSGL. Now, next time by George, it is 1 to go. Otis Lawrence still leading the way from Luke Smith ahead of Istvan Pookie. Alvaro Carton and Ismail Fassi have been waiting in the wings for a number of laps at this point. Both of them on the battery. We could have a 5-car fight for the win of this race.
Yeah, we certainly will do. Heading down through towards turn 1. Shanaka Clay still now battling away, managing to get himself higher than Mirko Siriano. Just want to say, Nicolas Longue's return to the top 10 has been sensational as well. 13-lap old soft tyres, and has managed to blast his way past Fabrizio Donoso as well. Remember, of course, getting caught in the pit box with another car, as we now see more battling this time for P3 in the podium places. Caraton, who's had an essential rise, an absolutely dramatic rise as well. 3rd place coming out of Decidia Del Lago.
That's 14 spots gained for Alvaro Carton in this race. A sensational performance for the Williams driver, who's got tenure in the F1 esports scene, but he's still racing incredibly well. And he's made up the most moves, actually, out of anyone who started further back down the order. Sensational stuff from Alvaro. But at the front of the order, it looks like, George, Otis Lawrence, he can't be catched.
No, he has been in control, time in, time out, lap after lap, and certainly has been a measured performance here from a young man who yet can't qualify for F1 esports just due to mere age, but he is proving that it's just a number. It's Cymru am byth. It's Otis Lawrence, the Welshman, takes victory in the F1 esports Invitational here in Brazil in sensational style, ahead of Luke Smith in second. Alvaro Carton, a massive Phoenix drive to get into 3rd place. Istvan Pookie gave it everything, 4th as well. Ismail Fassi making it 5th, and 2 drivers in the top 5 for Williams Esports. Danny Berejnay in 6th place as well. What a return as well from him. After starting on pole, due to the force feedback issues, he dropped down through the field, but recovered to 6th fastest. And Jarno Otmir, starting from the very back of the grid, managed to accrue 7th place. But what a drive from one Otis Lawrence. A star in the making, but also a star for now.
Yeah, Otis Lawrence, I mean, what a rise he has had to the top, of course, coming over recently in the last game or so to the PC scene. And he's just adapted so well. Of course, early parts of this F1 23 game, I think we can all admit Otis Lawrence's driving standards weren't up to standard, but he has really... He's taken the feedback and he's taken all the criticism and he's brought it on board, and he has stepped it up to another level. We knew he was good from F1 22. He took a little bit of a dip at the beginning due to the driving standards, but now he's reaching newer and higher heights that no one has ever seen from a driver so young. Incredible stuff from Otis Lawrence. We are witnessing a star in the making.
We certainly are. A young man who has delivered once again, and we have seen it from Otis Lawrence before, but today was slightly more dominant. And I think something else, another take on what is an astounding talent, and starting P2, ascending to P1 in truly emphatic fashion. Pleasure to watch. And Luke Smith finishing 2nd after starting P3. Look at that from Alvaro Carton, starting 17th and up to 3rd. Istvan Pookie, 11th to 4th. Ismail Fassi, 16th to 5th. Incredible from Williams, both working extremely well together to move themselves as high as they did. Incredible. We look down through the order. Plenty of other drivers in the mix. Obviously, we lost Conor Muir as well. Credit to Nicolas Longue. He had to bounce back from adversity twice over, but did so brilliantly. I mean, what can you can't really sum that race up in more ways than just sensational, certainly on the stance of Otis Lawrence. It was certainly a measured and truly brilliant performance, but also on another line as well. You look at some of the names like Caraton, you look at Ismail Fassi, drivers that started further down, 17th, some of them starting 16th as well, moving their way up to 3rd, some to 5th. I mean, around a track that is so technical, like Brazil, where you really need to make your strategy work for you, Dan. That is brilliant too. That, again, in its own right, a masterfully played drive.
all in all, it was just a great race all round, I think, from all the drivers that we witnessed today. Of course, we did have one slight hiccup with Barry Burman and Shianaka Clay, of course, both of them being relegated far down the order. It's a shame that I had to come to that, but even that was lap 31 or something, lap 30, so it was a long time in the race, and I think F1 Esports is looking like such a fun event to watch, and I'm so excited for the beginning of it, whenever that may be. And we're just getting a taste here, George, I think.
We are getting a taste. There's more to come from these very talented young individuals, folks, and obviously with the F1 Esports Championship, I'm sure it's only just around the corner. It's got to be, right? It has to be. And naturally, it's given these drivers a chance to obviously show what they're capable of and give their teams, some insight as to how much they are performing and how well they're performing at this very late and key stage, because of course they're all fighting for places here, Dan. It's imperative they make use of the time they have before the championship starts.
Yeah, absolutely, and I bet that all the engineers have been working incredibly hard on this race and studying what the best strategy is, what the optimal setups are around this circuit, and how they can maximize every millisecond to get an advantage over their rivals. We saw it in qualifying today here, George. Danny Beresnay was on pole position ahead of Otis Lawrence by 8 thousandths of a second. We are getting into the thousandths of a second margin between these F1 Esports stars. Of course, Otis Lawrence not racing here. He won't be racing in the F1 Esports series, but that is something that can happen. These guys are going to be within thousands of each other, and you want to be on the right side of that.
Yeah, you certainly do. And obviously throughout the season, last season, we witnessed an incredible, folks. I'm telling you this now. 8 different drivers winning races in season 34, last season in PSGL, which was unbelievable. Butcher, Burman, Lee, Benham, Otmir, Blakely, Longay, and Ronhar. Of course, all the names you'd expect to be at the very top of their game. They proved again that they are very much top of their game, but no one could usurp, bar the likes of Barry Burman, who got close, as well as Brendan Lee. No one could beat Otmir's record of podiums. 6 podiums he managed to accrue that season, most of them finishing in P2, and that is consistency. That is F1 Esports winning form. Can anyone beat that? I tell you what, if Otis Lawrence was in it tomorrow, he'd have a great chance of perhaps even putting on a stellar display, but we're going to have to wait a little longer to see him obviously competing at the top level. But folks, it has been a truly astounding night. Plenty of action. Thank you to each and every single one of you for tuning in. We very much love having you here at PSGL. Keep it coming. We appreciate your support. If you want to make sure you stay tuned in to PSGL and every stream that comes onwards, obviously we'll have hopefully another new PCF1 season starting in the near future, I would have thought. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we're still unsure as to what's going to happen in the world of F1 Esports for now, but be assured, if you stay tuned into the socials, you will get first-hand knowledge of when that new season will start. So make sure, first of all, you hit the like and subscribe button. We really would appreciate it. And then, of course, head over to Twitter and also Instagram and TikTok as well. Premier Sim GL. That is the tag that you want to use. Premier Sim Gaming Leagues. They are all on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you check those out and stay up to date with all the happenings as part of this league. And if you want to get involved yourself, you can. Submit your times onwards and forwards, getting ready for a brand new season. Obviously, I know that many drivers and commentators as well are looking to try and get in on board at PSGL. And if that's something that you fancy doing, please make sure you send it to the Discord and get in touch, fill out the relevant forms and get involved. If you want to check me out as well, at George Morgan TV is where you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and I'm also on Twitch as well, YouTube, many places pretty much, basically everywhere. Just use the same name, at George Morgan TV. And Dan, where can they find you, my friend?
George, you're all over the shop. I'm in one place. You can follow me on Twitter at DanfieldF1_. I really should get on different socials and try and get my name out there, but uni work swamping me and
probably
whatnot,
not good for your bandwidth either, Dan, to be honest with you.
No, with how my internet's been, but I've got an Ethernet cable now, so it should all be working out. But there's no promises for season 35 of PSGL, whether or not I'm actually going to be able to commentate at all. Well, I'll be there, of course, but whether or not my internet wants me to, that is a question that remains to be seen.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, folks, make sure you check Danfield out as well. Check out PSGL. It has been an absolute pleasure bringing you all the action here tonight. We really appreciate all your support. This time around, it was Otis Lawrence who took the glory. The Welsh coming out on top once again in the world of league racing. But we will see what happens as we delve deeper and deeper as time goes on. Who's going to win F1 Esports? Stay tuned in and find out. We'll see you soon, folks. Take care. Look after yourselves. Goodbye.
Desperately trying to hang on. He's got the inside. All here is through on the left-hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of quarters now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.
Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my